Welcome to Ron's Lehigh River Valley, Part 8B. Looking west in 1978 to Allentown, Lehigh County. A 1/2 inch to the foot model of Jersey Central Station in Bethlehem I built for my friend Jim Kerner in 2013. A close-up view of the 1-inch half-scale model. A 1/4 inch to the foot model in 1983. The Concourse Show poster held at Lehigh Mountaintop in Bethlehem featured the station, train, and Packard, a 1934 model. Number 834, the Bullet, served the Jersey Central from Jersey City to Wilkes-Barre from 1929 till 1931. It was painted a pale green. The Bullet on the train layout. This is a Mike's Train House 2-rail die-cast model. Late 40s photo of the eastbound train reflected in the Lehigh Canal. Westbound train passing the station in 1940. In the late 40s, the Jersey Central acquired a half dozen of these Baldwin-built double-enders. Having cabs at both ends meant no turntables needed. George Hart's 972 approaching the station in 1983. Jersey Central's freight station in 2015. Today it's used for storage. Bethlehem Steel's former electrical shop along 3rd Street in South Bethlehem was chosen for the new Industrial Museum conceived in the 1990s. Despite years of plans and raising money, the nonprofit stalled for many years. Finally, the Northampton County District Attorney John Morganelli looked into the matter and threatened to shut the whole thing down. It got done. Here in August 2016, new museum head Amy Hollander gave a speech on opening day. She has since left the position. Cutting the ribbon, the opening day. Laying the narrow gauge industrial tract in front of the museum in 2017. A G-gauge layout. A 16-foot cantilever bridge holds a Lionel Classic scale Santa Fe set from 1952. Rear set is a D. Haynes custom built for the Santa Fe in G scale. When I was 11 years old in 1952, I received the Lionel ABA set for Christmas. I felt like the kid in the Christmas Story movie, the greatest gift I ever received, and it still runs good today. Back in 1975, I built an O-gauge model of the Santa Fe Bridge. That's an Indiana Harbor Belt 080 plastic model kit I built. It runs well, but the motor that came with it is very underpowered. When I lived in Eastern PA, I built a special winter scene for the bridge with over 200 pounds of plaster and mountains that reached clear to the ceiling in my apartment. In 1978, I made a special trip to see, photograph, and measure this bridge in Arizona. It crossed Diablo Canyon near Flagstaff, Arizona. It was under construction in the late 1940s, ending a bottleneck on the main line of the Santa Fe Railway. It was built out of 4 sheets of 3/4 plywood, 4x8, and detailed with 1/8 illustration board. It was quite strong and will easily hold 100 pounds plus of trains. Set up in my backyard with the Aristocraft FA units. The 4-unit set measures over 7 feet long. Set up at Chris Kingelmart's show in Bethlehem. set up at East Broad Top Railroad. The Christmas City Fair was held a little earlier than usual when the Freedom Train rolled into town in August 1976. The train carried mementos from America's past. In the spring of 1977, after the excursions were over, the locomotive and support cars were moved to Hellertown, PA by the Steam Locomotive Corporation of America to be redone as the Chessie Steam Special. Backing down the Bethlehem station to the Hellertown Roundhouse. The Hellertown Roundhouse in the steam days was a busy place. It still stands today in 2022, but it's a shell of its former self. Working on the engine, Reading Roundhouse, Hellertown. Painting the tenders. All finished, ready to go. The announcement, 150th anniversary to run all over the Western Maryland, Chesapeake and Ohio, and Bowling, Ohio railroads. They merged about 1970 into the Chessie system. Crossing the Susquehanna River Bridge at Perryville, Maryland on the Bowling, Ohio Railroad. I shimmied up a sycamore tree to get this shot, but I kind of ripped up my pants skimming down again. At Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, lined up with the Gettysburg Tourist steam engines. The red brick station in the background is where Abraham Lincoln got off the train during the Civil War to give his Gettysburg speech. Eastbound across the Potomac River at Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. Westbound at Harper's Ferry. Passing Point of Rock Station on the Bowling, Ohio Railroad. In 1990, the Chesapeake and Ohio 614 was substituted for the Reading 2102 and ran out for the rest of the trips, named as the Chessie Steam Special Safety Express. A Mike's Train House 3-rail model posed on the 2-rail layout. Getting underway out of Richmond, Virginia. Passing Eagle Rock Station, Virginia on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad. Lehigh Mountain Top, Bethlehem Steel, Homer Research Center meant to impress customers and business associates. The Concours Auto Show, sponsored by the Burn Prevention Foundation, was held here for over a half-dozen years at the turn of the 20th century. The show featured some of the best American automobiles imaginable restored. The 1997 poster features car collector Dale Flowers, a V16 1930 Cadillac with the Lehigh Valley Railroad's Asa Packer and Black Diamond passenger trains. The 1998 poster featured Bethlehem steelhead Charles Schwab and his Stutz automobile at the Bethlehem station. Schwab's personal passenger car, Laredo, is at the museum in Altoona, PA, under restoration. My favorite was the 2000-year show with artist George Angolini, featuring a red 1948 Tucker automobile. Only about 51 Tuckers or so were built before Preston Tucker ran into financial trouble and production ceased. After the movie came out starring Jeff Bridges, values of surviving Tuckers shot up $1 million. All passenger trains were dieselized in 1948, but did not have the booster unit as shown in the poster. Richard Coogan with his 1940 Cadillac at the 2002 show. Richard owned the Lionel Toy Train Corporation in the late 1980s, early 1990s. He passed away in 2019, but I was glad to have met and photographed the man. The 2002 poster featuring Richard and wife waving to General Eisenhower in a 1940 Cadillac during the Victory Parade in New York City. Richard Coogan made the front cover of the premiere issue of Classic Toy Trains magazine in 1987. Had a huge collection of toy trains and over 200 classic automobiles. One of his cars was a Mercedes given to Joseph Stalin by Adolf Hitler before the war. How he found it and what he paid for it is a $64,000 question. The DeLorean Auto at Concours Car Show. Built overseas in stainless steel in the early 80s and sold for about $25,000. It was a brainchild of auto executive John DeLorean. He faced the same problem Preston Tucker had decades before him: not enough support money. Despite being used in the three-part series movie Back to the Future, it was not considered a success. The third series in the movie featured a steam engine pushing the DeLorean up to 88 miles per hour so it could time travel back to the future. A DeLorean 1-inch toy model being pushed by a Bachmann G-scale model. Looking west up the Lehigh River into Lehigh County in 1979. Bethlehem Engine Terminal is at bottom. State Hospital is in the middle right, now demolished. Allentown Train Yard is in the distance with the gas tank and PP&L building beyond. When the Central Railroad of New Jersey abandoned all lines in Pennsylvania, the Lehigh Valley Railroad took over Bethlehem Engine Terminal here in 1975. Before the Conrail takeover in 1976, locomotives from the Reading, Central New Jersey, and Lehigh and Hudson were serviced here for many years. Reading Camelback engine next to the powerhouse. Reading and Central New Jersey locomotives next to the powerhouse. A Strasburg visitor on the turntable from a fan trip in 1968. George Hart's 972 on a fan trip in 1983. Model Trainmaster on the turntable. This is a Mike's Trainhouse 2 3-rail model. The Reading did paint two of their Trainmasters just like this model. Rail fans called the RS type the Hammerhead. The Lackawanna was not known to visit the Bethlehem Engine Terminal, but here in the model town, it does. The big steamer is a Brass Weaver model. Diesel is an Atlas model. Camelbacks were frequent visitors during the steam days. Here a heavily weathered brass Williams model is next to a die-cast Mike's Trainhouse model. The Lionel 3-rail chassis model is very close to scale as the brass 2-rail locomotive U.S. Hobbies 2124 Reading model in the background. Reading 2124 is in display at Scranton, PA. It precipitated many iron horse rambles in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Building the Central New Jersey Roundhouse, made out of double-weight illustration board and strip wood, held together with Elmer's glue. Finished structure diameter is 8 feet. A Jersey Central Mikado at the Coaling Tower. This is a Haynes die-cast model kit about as big as steam locomotives got on the Central before the diesel invasion. The Coaling Tower is built with illustration board and wood. The prototype Bethlehem Coaling Tower with an 080 shifter engine about 1948. A Sunset brass model custom painted Fairbanks Morse Trainmaster in front of the Coaling Tower. A Weaver plastic RS model at the Roundhouse. Hand-laid track looks nice, but the first time you run a train over it, you found out where you made a mistake. A Weaver brass model of the Reading Crusader at Bethlehem Engine Terminal. Headed to South Bethlehem, passing near the Roundhouse in March 1976, a few days before the Conrail takeover. a Lehigh Valley, Wyoming type at the New Street Bridge about 1948. These locomotives were the biggest on the valley. All were scrapped by the mid-1950s. A trolley on the north side of the New Street Bridge, Jersey Central Tracks and Lehigh Canal below, about 1950. By July 1952, the New Street Bridge was under demolition. New Street Bridge under demolition looking north. Bethlehem Steel got the contract. The new City Hall is at upper left. Car 913 at the south corner of Bethlehem, 3rd Street and New Street in 1949. Eastern Limited crossing Tillman Street Bridge in 1949. Eastern Limited with operator throwing the switch at Mincy Trail Junction in 1949. Trolleys on Broad Street. Note Boyd Theater, which was recently demolished in 2022. Eastern PA also had a Boyd Theater on North 3rd Street. Photo taken in 1962. It was demolished in 1975. On the corner sits a real rare bird, a 1959 Ford Edsel station wagon. The Edsel was named after Henry Ford's son. Did not sell well and was eliminated after a 3-year run. A grand union of trolley tracks at Broad and New Streets. A trolley at South 3rd Street stopped next to Bethlehem Steel headquarters. The end. Trolleys on the scrap line at Bethlehem Steel in the early 1950s. Next, we'll probably do Allentown, PA. I don't have too many personal pictures I took at Allentown, but there's a lot in our archives.